Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Footy Banter and Insights. Today we're going to be discussing the Game Week 8 review. So we'll divide into three sections. We'll look at the title race, wherein Liverpool and Man City were the big winners. We'll look at the qualification for Europe overall, wherein we had seen big wins for Tottenham, United, Villa, and we have two very big results at the bottom of the table wherein Leicester pulled off a great comeback against Southampton and Everton got a 2-0 win against Ipswich. So I'll leave the floor open to everyone now to discuss their games of the week. Varun, why don't you start?
Um, of course, being an Arsenal fan, I'll start with the Arsenal game. Um, I think a massive error by Arteta in terms of the starting lineup. I think again, if you are going to start in Premier League with a starting lineup of or with a forward three of Havertz, Sterling, and Trossard, correct? It speaks out top four, and you will get a result like that itself, right? It's not a those top that top three is not a top three that shouts out Premier League title winners, correct? So it is you have to do better than that in this when you are doing a starting lineup. Second point being, if you look at the midfield, it was Declan Rice, it was Thomas Partey and Merino. Where is the creativity going to come from? There's no creativity in that midfield, right? Now, a lot of people are going to, of course, look at the Saliba's red card and kind of be like, that was the point where the game turned. Of course, it was a point where the game turned. But the thing is that you have to look at this in the first 30 minutes or 35 minutes before the red card happened. We were not there. We were like, we didn't have any, we were not playing that well, right? So it's very easy to put the finger on Saliba and say that, okay, that red card was the reason why we lost. But you have to look at where were we actually playing well until that point. It's very similar to the United's game when Bruno got sent off against Tottenham, right? Like a lot of people will say that Bruno's sending off was a turning point and the score was whatever, like 1-0 or 2-0 at that point. But I think United were not playing well before got sent off as well. Similarly, Arsenal yesterday were not playing well before Saliba got sent off. So uh, I think that, according to me, was a key point. But
What are the
I will
options
lead
that
into
Arsenal has in terms of like why are Martinelli and Saka not starting, and why is Jorginho not starting? Like, are they
exactly.
injured or like what's happening?
Exactly. So I think Saka was injured, or they didn't want to take a risk with Saka
Hmm.
because he had a problem midweek, and they didn't want to kind of take a risk of that minor injury turning into something major. So I can completely understand with that, but you need someone like Martinelli who is a little bit more creative, or in the midfield you should need someone like Jorginho, right? You can't have those top three. You cannot have that midfield with that lacking creativity and part of that midfield who is Marino, who's playing his first Premier League game, right? And that too on a away Bournemouth game, right? So Premier League games are not easy and you can't take it lightly, right? Like every game is tough. So I think that, according to me, was a big error on Arteta's part, and he'll have to revisit the drawing board.
But
Rahul,
like,
Varun bhai, what are the options available? मतलब, out of the available players, whom else can you play? What
I
better
would
choice?
have
actually, the more important question is why are there no options available, right? Like this
exactly,
team of Arteta and Edu and the whole management
exactly
has been in place now for good 5 years, I guess.
correct,
So there have to be now options available. They've had
correct.
7, 8 transfer windows, right?
Absolutely
But
right.
whatever
Absolutely
Yeah.
right.
options he
So
had, he put up the best team, I think. So
no,
what's
I
the?
don't think this was the best team. I think in the midfield, in that case, you had to put Jorginho in the midfield because you need the in a away game. You need the creativity. You need one person who can break the lines, kind of a thing, who can do that, give the pass, right? Like, and who can string the passes, move the ball left to right from one wing to the other wing. Correct. He had multiple options to play. Like he could have played Havertz in a inside right role, right? And he could have played Jesus up top. That could have been one of the options. He could have played Trossard up top, which he has done before, and played Martinelli on the left with Havertz again on the inside right. that would have been a much better option, and he has done
I
that before as
think
well.
Havertz is a fixture. Like his position is fixed as a centre forward. I don't
No,
think he wants to
if you
change that.
remember in the previous games, Trossard played as a striker, and Havertz came back in the midfield as an attacking role. So he has done that in this Premier League. In this season itself, he has done that. I think that would have been a much better option. Secondly, if you see when Saliba got a red card, you can't bring on Krivior, right? Like, I mean, that's a big downgrade in quality in this game. When Saliba got injured, he should have put Ben White as a centre back. Thomas Partey could have gone right back, which he has done in the previous games as well, right? And that's the kind of change he should have made, and then probably get Sterling off to bring someone else in instead of Kivior, or someone like Jorginho could have come up at that point. But I think the starting lineup, the substitutions were not good.
But I feel Martinelli is also not really in very good goal scoring form. Like he missed that one particular chance
He did, yeah.
when he was 1-on-1, and he's been
Correct.
missing chances this season a lot, right? So maybe that is why the manager doesn't have confidence in him that he's going to make an impact.
Yeah, but come on, man. You have to keep your previous biases and your previous jobs aside. Sterling is no longer. Come on, Martinelli is much better than Sterling. You can't compare the two. Like if you are going to be biased, okay, because a player has played with you in the previous club, and that's why you're starting him. I mean, this is the outcome that you're going to expect. You're never going to win the season with such players starting for your team. I mean, again, like as I said, like a combination of Havertz, Trossard, and Martinelli, Sterling is not going to win you the league. And if you're starting with these players as an away game in Premier League, what else do you expect? It's kind of ridiculous. So
Also, Bournemouth have actually been very good this
yeah,
season.
yeah,
Even though their position is not reflecting that, the underlying statistics say that they should be in the top four. Like
yeah.
really,
Oh,
they've been playing very well.
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw them play yesterday. They were pretty compact, pretty solid. Going forward, they were pretty easy on the eye as well. Yeah.
Let's
So
go to the
So,
next
what do you
game.
think this
let's.
does to the title race or title chances for Arsenal?
I don't think it changes anything, right? As I said, they were contenders, but they were never the favorites. And I said this is specifically a reason, right? The attacking options are very limited, and that's where in the going into the season, if you're not signing a good striker and you are selling your creative midfielders like Fabio Vieira and the other guy that we had,
Smithrow.
Smithrow, and then bringing like a player like Sterling to kind of on a loan. You're not. I don't know, man. Like it's kind of the attacking wise, the transfer window wasn't good. So I mean, and you eventually is going to catch up on you, right? So that's what happened basically. Again, I don't feel we are the favorites to win the league, and I said that at the start of the season, and I'll stick to that. So
So,
and
guys, we think. Sorry,
I think
no.
such results for Arsenal will happen, and and as an Arsenal fan, if anyone watches this, I think uh, we should be prepared to kind of take such results on our stride because this will be like a common fixture this season. Uh, so yeah,
So, like, we think that it's a sort of a three-horse race now with Liverpool, Arsenal, and City. Why is it not a four-horse race with Villa also on same points as Arsenal, and they are playing good football largely, more or less? So, why don't we include them in the title race?
Villa is a great team and they have a great manager, but they are a great team right now because of their great manager. And over the course of a 38 game season, like if you see the Arsenal game versus Villa, he will come up against Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal twice. He will come up against a lot of good opposition lower down as well. And I think they will be caught out. So if I look at Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal, I see these three teams consistently getting results against the bigger teams and the smaller teams. Whereas a Villa may surprise everyone and get a win maybe at an Etihad, but consistently they may not be able to get the better of all the remaining teams throughout. So I feel of all the four teams that we are mentioning, I think Villa are just a level below the top three teams. But yes, from the remaining teams, they are definitely the best.
So it's
Also,
a
squad depth,
personnel
right?
issue.
Yeah, also squad depth. Squad depth is very important. Like for example, the game after Bayern, they looked very jaded against United in that
United.
game, right? So that is going to happen with the kind number of fixtures that are there in the season this year.
I think squad depth is going to be a massive issue for Arsenal also. I don't see like bench strength, bench quality being there enough to, challenge for the title. Like 38
Yeah,
games
yeah.
is a very long season. Champions League at the domestic competition, it's a very, very long season. And I don't think they have the bench strength to, challenge for the title. We already saw how missing Odegaard and missing Rice due to suspension and Odegaard due to injury has affected the team and the results. I don't
And that's
think
Absolutely.
why
that's
I don't like
So
the fact that there are more number
I
of
have a
games in the Champions League, because that just reduces overall quality of football. Like it will have more exciting matchups, but overall quality of football across all games on average will reduce because more second string players will get a chance to play.
So I have a contrarian view on what Ishan had mentioned that if I look at the top three right now, I feel Liverpool's squad depth is the least right now. And if
Mm-hmm.
I look at Arsenal, I think I honestly feel Arsenal's squad depth in goalkeeping and defense and defensive midfield is better than all the other teams in that bracket. So most of the titles are won by strong defenses, and you're looking at 8 games in the season wherein Arsenal have got 3 to 5 red cards. Right, it's not been easy. Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, all of them have either missed via injuries or suspensions. So even throughout that, they are still competing. So I feel if we give them a larger sample size to work with, I think their squad depth is actually the best. City find solutions, but they actually have a very less number of first team players in the squad. And in terms of
UV,
quality, especially at the back, I think Arsenal are much better.
you are right about the squad depth when it comes to defense and defensive midfield. But when it comes to attack, our squad depth is not good at all.
yeah.
It is extremely poor.
Whom do you
So
replace Havertz with? Like who will replace Havertz as per you, Yui? Gabriel Jesus, like is he any good enough?
Jesus Jesus is the one guy who can step in. But I'm saying, see, that's what I'm saying. In the 38 game title race, right? If your defense can get those clean sheets consistently, you require one goal. A Gabriel can go and score. You can have a Trossard leading the line. You can have, let's say, a Martinelli or a
But that won't
Saka
win you
doing
titles,
something.
Yui. That
that's
won't
not
win
going
you
to.
titles.
There will always be games when you're going to end up dropping points like it happened yesterday. There'll always be
I
games like that. So
I think yesterday was a outlier if you look at it. It
UV,
wasn't consistent with the first 7 games of the season.
I don't think it was an outlier because you saw the same thing happen against Brighton before Declan Rice got a red card, right? It
Hmm.
was, see, again, like it's a pattern, right? It's a pattern that's waiting to kind of blow up. And I said that again in the previous game as well, in which Trossard had scored the 91st minute winner. Correct. We were going to lose that game against drop points against Leicester in that game as well, right?
Mm.
So eventually, it's only going to come and bite you in the back, right? Her game, you cannot go into it fighting into, like, like, where are the goals coming from? Like, which game, like, it's very difficult. It's very difficult with the kind of attacking options that we have at our disposal.
Even the
So
centre
I
back
sort
pairing
of
is who is going to replace Saliba or a Gabriel if they get injured? I don't think they
they
have
have
that
very
I
good
kind of
think
defensive
defense,
options.
defense, defense. There are
Ben
options there.
White,
Saliba.
Julian
yeah, like I
Timber,
don't think it's good
Calafiori.
enough.
There are many, many good options.
No,
But
no.
who
Like
I
I
has
don't
agree
think
with you.
that should be a challenge. But
See, we are
I agree
comparing the
with
top
Tarun.
three, right?
Yeah.
We are comparing Liverpool. Imagine Van Dijk and Konate. There's a
Hmm.
huge drop after Van Dijk and Konate. I think all the people would love to have Calafiori and Ben White in their team as squad players in that sense. Timber is such a good player at multiple positions right now. Even City, if you look at it, if they lose one or two players, they actually run very shallow. they have to find solutions in different spheres. They somehow do that. I think it's all up to Guardiola to do that. But pure play man to man, I think Arsenal have depth, at least like I said, defensive midfield and centre backs, and even for the keeper for that matter. I think they're doing well. Neto, who has been signed from Bournemouth, is a very, very good second option
Yes.
as a keeper.
I think the City's depth is much better than Arsenal. I don't think there is any, like, if for example they have in the defense they have Ruben Diaz, they have Manuel Akanji, they have Guardiol, Nathan Ake, Kyle Walker, Rico Lewis, so many players that they have who can. So the defensively they are covered. Only problem will be Haaland. If he gets injured, then it's going to be an issue, and Kovacic as of now, because Rodri already got injured. So if Kovacic also goes down, then they are going to have a big problem. That's why I think they'll sign a defensive midfielder in the coming transfer window. I think they should do that if they want to remain in the race and challenge for the title. Like, obviously they are the favorites, but a defensive midfielder is a must because Rodri will take. I think he's out for the season and he'll take some time coming back in the next season also. So a defensive midfielder is a must, I feel. How many
There's
games
a
are you
chance
going
he
to
may not be here
Kovacic?
at City next season also, right? Like Real, there are rumors that Real want him, and if they really want him, they are going to get him no matter what. So yeah, City need to buck up their defensive midfield position.
Yeah,
But on the
that's the
point that Yuvraj was mentioning about having a great defense, that only works when you can nick off like 1-0 wins or stuff here and there. And I don't think Arsenal has that good of an attacking lineup. Like that kind of a sort of a model worked for Jose Mourinho when he was at Chelsea, or an Antonio Conte, because they had Diego Costa and Hazard, or they had Drogba, Robin, Duff, so
Yeah.
many like players who could create
Match
magic
winners.
out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Like uh, Arsenal have Saka, but there's no one beyond that in their sort of top
City
three.
has great
Yeah,
depth in
They've got Odegaard, who's possibly the best right now. He's injured, but that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
When it's a full strength team, okay, tell me this: KDB or Odegaard on present form? Who will you
I
pick?
mean,
KDB is
KDB
33.
because KDB is playing, right?
No, but that's what I'm saying. If he's in the team, who would you pick? If you look at
No,
Saka
but
or any other winger,
But
it's
UV, we are talking
definitely
about
Saka.
squad depth. UV, we are
yeah, we
talking
are
about
talking
squad
about
depth,
yeah.
not squad depth, right?
No,
So
I'm talking about
we
the
have to.
point wherein you want to nick a 1-0 win, and for a 1-0 win, you want one player to step up in a game and create that magic.
But
I'm
he
not
have
saying you
finished.
have to win five. Havertz has been finishing.
He is. See, the thing is that Havertz is a decent. Okay, fine. He's like a 6 on 10, 7 on 10 player. He's not a Drogba, as Manan
Of
rightly
course
said,
not. Yes,
right? So he's
completely agree.
not
Yeah.
that. He is not Diego Costa. He is not Eden Hazard, right? Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like who do you have in that team?
If
Like
had they
is Saka.
wanted to win like 1-0, Martinelli should have scored yesterday.
Yeah. So
Like,
that's what I'm
they
saying.
want
That's
to play
exactly
with the same philosophy.
exactly. So if you are absolutely right. Martinelli should have scored yesterday. And if you see the game against Brighton, in which Declan Rice got a red
Again,
card, Havertz had a
Havertz has a
clear
chance.
clear one-on-one
Yeah.
chance, and he should have scored that day. So that's what I'm saying. If you put a decent player, a Drogba in that role, he takes these chances. Correct. That's why you need such players. Your attacking trio that is going up, apart from Saka, is not good. You're not there yet, and we didn't do anything over the summer to actually improve that kind of our attack in any which way, and that
Even
has to be
left
done.
wing option, Varun bhai, your left wing is not sorted. All these
It's
players
not
that you have,
sorted.
Trossard or Martinelli, they have to be your second string side. Like, they have to be bench players or squad players. They can't be the
Correct.
starting players if you want to
Tross-
challenge for the title.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Trossard works very well if you have star
Yeah,
players around him like Saka and Odegaard. But if you remove Saka and Odegaard from the team, then Trossard on his own is not going to pull the weight,
correct.
right? So that's the problem. Like he's a good squad player. He's a very good squad player. But is he the person you can rely on to win you the league? No. Is Havertz that person that you rely on to win the league? No. Right? Is Martinelli that person that you rely on to win the league? No. Neither is Jesus. So that's the
What
problem.
What are the comeback timelines for both of them, Odegaard and Saka?
Saka hopefully should be back for Liverpool game, but you never know. Odegaard should be back in like 3 to 4 weeks. Hopefully.
No, he should be back sooner. I think I heard Arteta saying that Odegaard is quite close. So he should be, I think maybe next week he should be back.
I doubt next week.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
don't
But
he'll
think
be.
he
not the
started
coming week.
training
I'm
yet.
not the coming week. I'm talking about the week later.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like I don't think Odegaard will be back. Even the fixture after Liverpool fixture, I don't think. I think 3 weeks is what I am. And I again, like if you're out for a month or you're out for 6 weeks or like whatever, you can't just immediately come back and like hit the
Takes
ground
time.
running, right? Like so,
Takes time.
you'll have to give 1 week for him to be ready to start the game as well, right? So
Okay, guys,
So
so we'll
let's
move
say
on
like
to Manchester because I think
yeah,
we have a full game week review to be done.
yeah.
And
mhm.
let's leave the discussion open to Manan now. So you can discuss both Manchester clubs and their fortunes this weekend.
So I didn't really see the City game, so I don't know much about that. Of course, they won and they just seem to win somehow, which is a true sign of a champion team. So that's, I mean, we know they're a champion team, right? So that's there. With United, the second half that we played was perhaps our best performance of the season.
Yeah.
uh, Various things to discuss in terms of like the role shift for Dallo in the second half, where he was working sort of like Rashford was covering for him, and he was working like a winger, like a inside forward when they went ahead. And Garnacho was simply unplayable, scoring with the most difficult opportunity he had, while he missed the other ones. Midfield was strong, defense was strong. I could see like Onana being that player, that ball playing sweeper keeper yesterday, where United had a high line and he was like 2/3 of the way away from his goal, trying to control the game. Two good goals, but it's just one half, so we cannot get super excited about it yet. Let's see how we need to be consistent, and let's see how that replicates. Like we should not need injustice or perceived injustice to drive us, like that should not be the case. Like this kind of a performance should come from minute one in every game.
Manan bhai, even the first half was quite good, except the goal that you considered, which was unfortunate. I think United were playing really well that game. I
I
watched the
don't think
entire.
it was really well, but after the first 25 minutes, we had sort of control on the ball. We weren't doing a lot with it, but it wasn't so bad. For the first 25 minutes, I think Ten Hag heard Varun after his comments of the Spurs game. He's like, we are just going to sit back and try and just weather this storm from Brentford, who are notorious fast starters. So at one point, they had what 70 odd percent possession for the first 15 odd minutes. And we weathered that storm, and then we took control of the ball. And for a large part, after that, it was all okay. We had a few chances, but the gameplay was not that great. But the second half was just something else.
Ten Hag also heard my comment
Yeah.
on Ericsson.
Yeah, Ericsson was the difference maker. Honestly, Ericsson was.
Actually, I don't like. I feel United started getting control of the game once Bruno started dropping deep. Like he was almost in centre back, left back, right back kind of positions, and driving the team and like sort of instructing players. I could see that on the field, right? Like he's telling players that okay, you go there, you go there, you go there, and sort of taking control of the ball. And at that point, Ericsson moved to more of a number 10 kind of a position, swapping roles with Bruno. And after 5, 7, 10 odd minutes of this, they swapped roles again, and they were like going back and forth throughout the game.
So honestly, I watched Casemiro. He was poor again. I didn't really like his performance. Although the team was very good, I think Garnacho was on, I think, steroids or something. He was full of energy, running up and down, and I think Garnacho and Ericsson were the two best players yesterday.
I don't think Casemiro was bad. I think he had a pretty good game yesterday. Perhaps one of his best games after the Liverpool game, like since the Liverpool game when he was really bad.
That says a lot.
So no, but he
But
had a pretty good game. Yeah, he was covering, he was making tackles, he was He was really good.
Maran, how many
Also,
times has he played after the Liverpool game? I don't think he has
in
started.
whatever
He
number of
hasn't.
games he's played, right? Like you can just call on whatever he's done. You cannot call on what he's not done or when he's not been around. So it doesn't
Hoyland's
make
finish
sense to
was
speak
really
about
nice,
that.
man.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Hoyland is a very good finisher, and now like he tends to go on streaks, right? Like he'll score for 8-9 games in a row, and then he'll not score for 8-9 games in a row. So like he has good finishing abilities. So let's see. And his hold up play was also very good. Like holding the ball up, just doing 1-2 passes. So like turning and running from his marker. So like it was pretty decent. The whole performance overall.
Do you think
Eight, nine
Hoyland should be
games in
the
a row. How
striker or
many goals
Zerki?
did he?
Sorry, do you think Hoyland should be the starter or Jerksy?
I think right now Hoyland is what we require. Xerxes, I don't feel has like sort of reached that match pace that EPL requires. Uh, he looks a bit languid. I don't think he's slow, but he looks languid because of his height probably and the type of sort of structure that he has, like moving around. There was this one chance immediately after he came on where Rashford, like I think it was Bruno who plays the ball to Rashford, and then Rashford just sort of pokes it to Xerxes, and Xerxes needs to tap it one touch and then just shoot. But he wasn't really in the game and at the pace of his teammates then. Also, perhaps because we've never played at that kind of a pace this season, right? So, like, it was a different zone, and he needs to get connected with his teammates more. But right now, Hoyland is the one we should start.
Also, I felt Martinez on the left was pretty decent.
Yes, yes.
We had a discussion, didn't we?
We did have a discussion, and we mentioned that Martinez might play on left and Evans will play centre back, and he was pretty decent. He was pretty
He was
decent.
pretty
I think,
decent. Yeah.
and I think we need that, like the tactics that offer the inverted fullback that Ten Hag wants. You need the left-sided defender to be left-footed, and that Martinez being that helped a lot. Also because like he has a tendency to go into challenges uh, like from the left. When he does that, he has someone covering behind him, and that helps him a lot as well. Like Delict and Martinez both tend to sort of go into challenges, and there's no one left to cover the space behind them. So that's why their partnership, in my head at least, doesn't work very well, and Euro will help that once he comes back.
Shall
So
we move
in
on?
terms of the top four, of course United are still far behind, but like we are in terms of position, but number of points wise we are not so behind. But it's going to be a very sort of competitive race for the fourth and the fifth potential spot that will lead to Champions League. Various other teams are in there. Of course, Villa are on form, the best possibility for the number 4 spot. There's Newcastle, there's United, there's Chelsea. Uh, I
There's
guess these are
Brighton.
Spurs, Brighton. So it's going to be competitive, and that makes the league good, right? Like you don't really know which teams are going to qualify.
At the rate at which Arsenal is getting red cards, even we might be dragged into the top 4 race. 3 red cards in 8 games, man. Like,
I think the streak is over. I think it's done now. The bad luck has gone.
Anyway, we can move to a couple of other
the
games,
yeah,
and then we can move to the relegation battle, which is also super interesting.
yeah.
So let's discuss the remaining top four contenders. So Villa got a very interesting 3-1 win away at Fulham. I think a
Mhm.
very difficult ground to get a win.
Mhm.
Spurs annihilated West Ham, a London derby, 4-1. Brighton won interestingly against Newcastle 1-0,
Yeah.
which is again a very good result for them. So, any views on these games, guys?
I saw the first half of Brighton and Newcastle, and Newcastle actually were the better team. Like Brighton scored the goal against the run of play. But of course, 3 points is 3 points. And when you're playing, it's sort of like a 6 pointer even at this stage, right? Because you're playing against your direct competitor for similar spots. I didn't see the second half, so I don't know how the game panned out there.
How did you watch the
But
first half? It was at the same time as United's.
because I have a phone and a screen and a television, na.
Acha, acha. I was struggling to do that. That's why.
Even United
United,
fans have two options just
United
in case the team is not
yeah,
playing well.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is because I have to speak something on this podcast. So I need to watch games.
Good cover up, Manan. Good cover up.
It's the truth.
But yeah, too many
But
red
yeah.
cards this game week. Yeah, I see Villa got a red card as well right at the end. I think West Ham
Yes.
got a red card as well. Um, yeah, eventful weekend when it comes to refereeing decisions again, I guess.
I think referees have become stricter. Like they're handing out more cards. Like we'll have to go and check the stats for this, but it's just like eye test tells you that we are talking about cards all the time.
To address the issue, was Saliba's red card justified or wasn't as per you? Let's clear
Um,
that.
See, I think what I will say is two things, right? Like first of all, um, if that would have happened against Arsenal, I would be the person who would be calling for the red card, kind of a thing. So I can't
Hmm.
complain on that point, right? So that is one part of it. Second part of it being, I don't think it was a foul, a clear and obvious kind of a decision that should have been overturned by the VAR, because VAR clearly mentions that it has to be a clear and obvious wrong decision for it to be overturned, right? And I don't think that was, because if you see the angle in which the cross was coming from the right, and there was Ben White covering it from coming in from the left hand side. So the trajectory of the cross and the run doesn't mean that he would have been one on one with the keeper.
He
So I
definitely
don't think
was one on one with the keeper.
just
Ben
check
White
it
was
again.
out of the picture. Like Ben
Just check it
White was
again.
too far
Just check it again.
away from. I think definitely he was the last man. Saliba
No,
was
no,
the last man.
check it out again, because I've seen it again. I've seen this replay multiple times. So again, if the referee would have given a red card, I mean, I think no one would have argued, and I don't think it's fine. As I said, like if I was this happened against Arsenal, I would have been calling for the red card. My only point in this case is that if you say VAR as calling out decisions with a clear and obvious, I don't think this was clear and obvious, right? To be kind of overturned by VAR in this case. So that is just my 2 cents on this.
We should put like a Sansani case cover news between the question Ishan asked and the pause that happened before Varun answered. Like, tang, tang, tang.
So if it were happened against Arsenal, would you want VAR to overturn it or no?
See, again, that's what I'm saying. If it's all depends on if the referee would have given it, right? I would have been the first one to say why did the referee not give a red card instead of giving a yellow card, correct? But I see a point. If it was given against Arsenal and VAR wouldn't have overturned it, I could have seen the point because it wasn't clear and obvious. So that's what I'm saying. Like that rule has to be very clear, right? If VAR is only clear and obvious, and हाँ ठीक है तुम clear and obvious नहीं था वो, kind of a thing, because there was Ben White coming as a covering up defender on that point, and the angle of the cross meant that it's Ben White could have come in the play. But ठीक है, again, like as I said, right, like I don't think we are playing good football even before the red card. So I have no, like it doesn't defend our gameplay, our starting lineup, our setup in this game. So it doesn't matter.
Any views on the Spurs versus West Ham game? Ishan, I think you saw Kulusevski play really well, right?
Yeah, Kulusevski, I think, has stepped up big time this season. Since he's been playing in the midfield, I think earlier he used to play as a right winger. Now he's playing in the midfield, and I think Kulusevski is a very good prospect. He's a very good player right now. Even Heung-min Son, I think we saw the difference that he's making after Timo Werner's brilliant form in the last few weeks. I think we, Son, Werner makes Son look much better. So I think Son was a great difference, and Kudu scored the first goal, but like again, Spurs made a great comeback and went on to score 4 more goals. So good match
But,
overall.
by the way, you
Best-
guys forgot You guys forgot that Reece James was back at this game.
Yeah.
Big news for Chelsea, huh?
It's one of those things wherein we should not be happy about temporary moments.
But I thought you guys don't want to jinx it, so you guys just
Yeah, definitely not.
neatly,
Definitely not.
neatly
Yeah,
avoided it.
definitely. When
Honestly,
he was,
to me, we didn't miss James as much because of Gusto, how he has played. Like the right now, Arsenal are missing Odegaard big time, but I don't think Chelsea, because of Gusto's capabilities, miss James as much. Like even right now, there's a big debate if James is fully fit and Gusto is fully fit, who is going to start the match. If that debate is there, that means we are covered in that position.
But is it really a debate? Like, I mean,
It's a
if
debate.
both of them are fully fit, James starts hands down, right?
No, not really. Not that
No?
easy. Not that easy. He might, but not that easy, to be honest.
they actually have very different qualities. So if you look at the game today as well, James was on the right, Gusto was on the left. James became the third auxiliary centre back. Gusto went into midfield as a inverted midfield player. So their attributes are very different in general. James is a great crosser of the ball, whereas Gusto is a better defender one on one.
Although physically James might look bigger, but I think Kusto is much better while defending. And if you look at Maresca's system, the right backs and the left backs don't except Kukurea who goes till the he advances to the final third. The right backs haven't done that so far. So I think Gusto fits in better compared to James in Maresca's system. But let's see, like Maresca has specified that James will only play one match a week for this season at least. So there will be plenty of minutes to share between two of them.
They are
But we are
prepping him
covered
for
in
Real
the
Madrid, na?
huh?
They are prepping him for Real Madrid.
No, no. I think if Trent is available for free, why will they go for Reece James?
It's just a
Despite
joke, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And even if they want him, I don't think like it's okay.
I think
No, if they
I think we've given them Hazard, who was injured most of the seasons.
Yeah,
So I
and
think they'll stay away from James right now.
yeah, for sure. Even you were
So let's move
mentioning
on.
they might go for Rodri, but considering his ACL injury, I don't think that's a given right now. If he was fit, maybe yes, but ACL injury, he'll come back next season, and I don't think they'll right away go for the swoop.
So just one off-topic discussion right now, because this is what Ishan was discussing when we were watching the Liverpool Chelsea game together. Literally, in the last 1.5, 2 years, you have so many big players going down with ACL injuries. It's unreal.
Yes.
And I think it's a big concern for football in general because once you have that sort of injury, it becomes very difficult to come back to to your very best.
So every
it's just
week
the
I was
number of
mentioning
games, right? Like since
number of
since
games.
COVID, the number of games have been cramped together, and now the number of games have increased, and they are going to increase with the Club World Cup. Like I think City are going to be playing the Club World Cup until like mid-July or something, and they're going to
Yeah,
start EPL mid-August. Or City or any other EPL club who's playing there,
even
right?
Chelsea for that matter.
Yeah. So it's not sustainable at all. And you've increased number of games. You've taken out the 2 week break that you had started giving in the EPL as well. If you remember, they had these staggered breaks where like 10 teams play one weekend and the 10 teams play other weekend. So you get a 2 week break overall. They are just removing all of these things and it's not sustainable. That's why players are threatening to go on strike.
Yes. Interestingly, on the Club World Cup scenario, if we are talking about it, Inter Miami is going to be a part of it now. So you'll see Messi and company compete at Club World Cup at their home stadium as well in Miami. So that's
We don't
going
know
to be
whom they will
fun
be
to watch.
competing against. No, that is the challenge.
Why?
I think they're
Then
Because many clubs are sort of like wanting to not participate also, right? It's not sort of a
Club World
given
Cup,
that everyone who's
not the Club
qualified
World
will
Cup.
participate.
No, not the Club World Cup. Club World Cup will happen for sure. and it will be fun to watch Messi, like Inter Miami, City, Chelsea, all these clubs come together and play that. That will be an interesting competition. So Inter
Coming
Miami's addition is good. I think it will get you a lot of commercial revenue, I believe.
coming back to that ACL point, right? Like I think some stats needs to be kind of there should be some stats on this because I'm just thinking back in the years of say like Roy Keane or Patrick Vieira or some of these players. I remember these players playing so many games back then as well, right? Like number of Premier League games are pretty much the same. The Champions League games have been increased this year, so you can't take that into account into these injuries. They had the European games at that point as well, and they had international breaks at that point as well. And then the players didn't have as good medical teams at that point. They didn't have as good facilities at that point. The game was much more aggressive at that point, and the protection from referees was very less compared to what it is right now. And still, we didn't have that many ACL injuries at that point. So there has to be something else going on currently, apart from I think the number of games or number of minutes. I feel like um, there has to be something else. Like
No,
it's
I'll
of
tell
course
you what
some
it is,
stats
right?
need to be pulled on the number of
Yeah.
minutes that players are playing.
I think there was more rotation then. Like now, because it's become so much more competitive. Like you can't win with 85 points, right? You need 90, 95 points. So your best players are playing more games and more minutes.
Yes.
Also, the number of international games has increased. Pele, there used to be 2 games that would happen in the international window. Now, sometimes there are 3 games. Now, after the season ends, there's like a couple of international friendlies also. So overall, the number of games has increased for sure. And I think after COVID, just the cramping of the schedule because of that 6 month break, we still haven't sort of come out of that, right? Because at that time, all the games, like it was 1 game every 3 days. And it's sort of consistently been going on since then because of the Qatar World Cup happening mid season. And like we still haven't got out of that circle where all of that time lost has been compensated yet. And then now new number of games have been added. I think it's just that.
I think देखना पड़ेगा थोड़ा stats in terms of minutes
Of
played
course, of
and the
course. Yeah.
correlation with the injuries because
Yeah.
I don't I think it has to be a little deep rooted kind of a thing rather than having a simple correlation between minutes and injuries. It seems too simplistic kind of a thing to kind of pinpoint
Yeah,
because I
I'm just
remember
talking
like
from eye test, right?
yeah because I remember someone like Henry was undroppable for Arsenal at that point, right? Like, or someone like Vieira was undroppable for Arsenal at that point. Um, and someone like Roy Keane, David Beckham, these guys, Paul Scholes was undroppable for a period. I remember Lampard played most of the games for Chelsea when he was at his prime. Terry, Lampard, all of these players were like
Lampard played back to back the most number of games in the Premier League at one point in time.
exactly right. So that's what I'm saying. So going back 20 years, I remember these players kind of playing a lot of minutes back then itself, right? Um, so some, I think I'm
Perhaps it's
sure, like,
also high pressing, right? Like now all teams
exactly.
are
That's what I'm
pressing
saying.
highest, right? So that
Intensity,
also
in
adds
game
to the
intensity.
yeah, that adds to the pressure on the joints and the muscles and everything. So the
Exactly.
Very,
style
that's a
of play
very that
also,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
So
that
that's what
can
I'm
be a
saying.
I
very
think there
important
should be some
correlation.
quota of
yeah.
minutes or games that a player can play at max. I think some sort of solution has to be brought in. Otherwise, these players will collapse, and eventually the fans will be the ones who will suffer because not so great players will not be available.
But
And
Ishan,
then
I
there'll
think this was a
also
very
be
good example wherein maybe not the minutes is
Yeah,
just the
it's the style
intensity
of
of
play.
play.
Yeah,
Like for example, when you're pressing and then you're counter pressing, your knees have a lot of jerks with them, right? Because you're
correct.
going forward and then pushing back and
Yes.
twisting. So I
Yeah,
think maybe that can be an avenue why so many injuries are happening. Like we'll have to go in
exactly.
depth. I think yeah,
like you can
but
correlate it to racket sports, right? Like tennis or
Yeah,
badminton or squash. where these
Exactly.
kinds of movements have always been happening, and now in football it's become a lot more frequent. And in football it's a longer duration, right? Like tennis games, they have more breaks, they are not like sort of flowing, and they are overall shorter. And football is 90 minutes with like a 15-minute break in the middle, right? So that is definitely one reason. So it's all
I
cumulative,
was
but
telling
I
you,
think
every
yeah.
week one player is getting an ACL injury. Like every week we are hearing one player or the other who is going to miss out on the entire season. And it's not an injury which will heal in like 1 month or 2 months. It will be like you're out for the season. So it's a very long term injury which is more concerning. And considering that the career of a football player is anyway short, like maybe 15 years or so on average, missing out on one entire season at the peak of your career is very harmful. It's not nice for such things to happen
But
for
Ishan, to
any
your
player.
point,
Like,
that quota system, right, like is a very difficult thing to implement, because then in
yeah,
that case there
I
will be
know,
a
I know,
fight,
it was a wide
national
solution.
team और club के बीच में fight होएगा, right?
Yeah,
Like uh, clubs will be like, we want to use majority of the quota. National team would be like, I want X percentage of the quota of the time that the player plays, kind of a thing. So very difficult to
That's
kind
easy
of.
to solve. You can just bifurcate it in the
yeah,
quota
that
rule,
you
right?
can do.
Like consider the number of games national team plays and the club team plays, and just sort of have some sort of a
Correct,
pro rata kind of
correct.
a like weighted average kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But what will happen because of that is stockpiling of players will happen a lot more. Like the top clubs will have better and better backups or second options, and like overall quality of football will still reduce because less good players are on the field at one point.
But it's
So
okay, Manoj
overall
bhai.
it's
For
not
the
so
greater
good
good,
for
it's okay.
football.
Like
Yeah.
I've been through the ACL injury, and we want good football, but we have to also understand that they are humans at the end of the day.
हाँ तो मैं तो बोल रहा हूँ number of matches is the issue, like because
Yeah,
pressing you can't stop, right? Like you can't stop tactics happening.
I
So
think
the
even
only way you can
stockpiling of
control,
players,
yeah.
so be it. I think that's okay. Like even if you want to build a Chelsea squad for every Premier League team, it's still fine, but not at the cost of players getting injured so
Agreed.
seriously.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
Okay, guys, so let's go to the final section. Did anyone follow the big battle at the relegation end of the window?
No,
Manan, did you have any comments on that? I think you would have followed it, right?
No, I just saw the scores. I didn't see any of the games. Uh, but it's interesting. It's so interesting because like Southampton goes 2-0 up, and then Leicester stages a comeback. And like Russell Martin was so gung ho until now that okay, we are going to turn it around. It's just a matter of one game, and this looked like that game. And then they just crumbled, and like it increasingly it looks like the three teams that came up will likely go down. Uh, Crystal Palace are still 18th, and it's sort of an aberration. Like the quality in their squad doesn't justify their position, and it's going to come together for them eventually, sooner rather than later. So it just feels that the three teams that have come up may just go down this year. And I don't think it would be so nice. Personally, I really wanted Ipswich to do well and like sort of continue that upward forward trajectory, but it seems like it's a step up too soon for them. They have good moments and good players, like Liam Delap has been very good, but overall, yeah, Everton sort of outclassed them.
I remember Nottingham Forest couple of seasons ago had just been promoted, and then they spent crazily and got some 10-11 signings in the summer transfer window. I think that's the only way you can sustain in the Premier League. Like if you don't spend crazily in the transfer window, you are going to the quality difference between a mediocre, a championship side and a Premier League side is going to be huge, and that will shine through in the 38 game long season that is going to, it's very difficult. So unless you follow that Nottingham Forest strategy of going berserk, because what happened? Leicester, we got the best player from their team. Dewsbury Hall was the best player in Leicester. So all such players will anyways get cherry picked from the Premier League squads. So you have to rebuild in a one single transfer window and then go have the best manager and then hope for the best that you are able to sustain in the Premier League. Otherwise, you are going down again. Last season, the
But
same thing happened. The three teams which were promoted were relegated again. So I like the Nottingham Forest strategy, although it was very wild and risky. But that's the only way you are going to stay in the Premier League, I believe.
But
I think the
they were
Gulf.
sort of forced. Not sorry, just to interject. Nottingham Forest were forced to do that because their squad in the Championship that got them promoted was full of loanies or players who finished their contracts at the end of the season. So
Okay.
when they came up, they had a squad of like 10 or 11 players only. So they had to really go out and sign those many players.
And didn't they
Uh,
face point deduction because of FFP or something later last season
they
or
did
something?
last season, they did, yeah.
Yeah. So
So
that's the downside.
on the subject of the championship squad, just imagine uh, a player who had worked with Enzo Maresca was their player of the year is sitting on the bench at Chelsea and not started a single game this season. So that is the difference in class right now between the championship and the Premier League.
Also, like you can't compare someone's quality in Leicester and Chelsea, right? Like, let's say if we had gone to a Crystal Palace or a West Ham or something, and he was still on the bench, then you can sort of make a more fair comparison. But the gulf is definitely huge, and we've seen it, yeah, like year on year. Like you need a legendary manager like a Bielsa or someone to sort of keep you up, or just like some really crazy players to come in to keep you up.
Great, great. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hit the like button, subscribe, share. Do let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and see you guys. See you guys next time. Bye.